Keeper.
We're live.
So, good afternoon. This is Senate Education Committee, May 28th, 1:30 p.m. Committee's called together to review S-131, which is the CTE bill. The CTE bill's House proposal of amendment. Just a heads up, we have a hard stop at, call it 1:55 to return to the Senate floor. The goal is to potentially get a straw poll. The chair of Senate Ed is in a committee of conference at the moment for H955. And we have invited Chair Mike Marcotte, Chair of the House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development, to speak on the House's proposal. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Senator.
And just one heads up, we have two documents for the committee. One is the House proposal of amendment. The second is the JFO note. And I'm not sure if they're posted.
They're posted.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Senator. For the record, Representative Michael Marcotte, Coventry, Chair of House Commerce and Economic Development. So 313 started in my committee, went through our Education Committee. We put considerable amount of time in 313. And I just want to say, I appreciate you sending this bill over to us, more of an intent and findings bill. That gave us a vehicle to be able to continue our work. So we've worked with the Agency of Education quite a while. And they were proposing to create an education service agency in ESSA that would have jurisdiction over of all CPEs. We took a lot of testimony, we had a lot of discussion, but in the end, it was apparent to us that without understanding where we were with the education transformation that is being talked about right now, that it didn't make sense for us to move forward with that. So we had a lot of discussions also with our CPE directors, and we learned from them that there's a lot of issues that they have that we may be able to fix. We started out with rulemaking. We learned that the rules and procedures for our CPEs have not been updated in 30 years, somewhere around 30 years, and that they were creating a lot of issues for the CPEs. So in here, you'll see that working with our Agency of Education, we decided it made more sense that they would issue guidance to our CTEs on certain issues. Because if we institute a rulemaking now, in a couple of years, we may have to institute rulemaking again. So you'll see that language in there. This is what the CTEs have asked for. And here we're telling the agency to collaborate with BACTED and also with the Superintendent's Association to work on those guidance issues. Also, we included language in here that tells the state board that every 5 years they need to look at rules and procedures for CTE and update them if they're when necessary, so that we don't get in this pickle again of not having it happen. We also we've asked the agency to look at issues that CTEs are having, trying to find qualified teachers, and how do we balance with the professionals that are out there, trying to get them in to teach, and also the requirements that are needed for licensure. So we've asked them to look at that. We've asked them to look at other things too. Pre-enforcement intervention pathways, different things that have also come up in our discussions with our CTEs. We want to look at the definition of comprehensive high school, and we're making a suggestion in there that our comprehensive high schools, we should be talking about regionally integrated high schools that encompass CTE instead of separating it out so that it's part of the curriculum. It's not a separate thing, and that we're in one budget. Get rid of this, budget for CTE, budget for high school. It's not working. And I think we all know that. And also we heard from our CTEs that sending the schools that are sending their students to the CTEs may not accept the credits or proficiencies that CTE students are gaining. And that's becoming a problem too. So we made some language changes there that would require the sending schools to accept those credits. And I think the last piece that's in here was added at the end, had to do with 230 and the objectionable language that the governor had concerning the BSEA. That language was removed, and that's the rest of the language that has already passed both chambers was reinserted.
So I think the transition that you're speaking of starts on page 12,
Yes.
line 1, thereabouts.
Yeah.
This sort of. Any other comments about including 230?
I actually was not here when my committee heard that from our house, general house.
Okay, any questions of Chair Marcotte?
Well, this is a passionate topic for me,
Oh,
and both of us, all of us. And I'm getting to that. I don't know if I'm alone in this, but my passion spurred me to really ask AOE to not continue to pursue their single statewide CTE district. And I wanted to make sure generally our committees are on the same page, because we talk about this in economic development and here and everywhere. But that really, in my mind, kind of waylaid the discussion. It took a while to sort of say no, and that's not what we're doing, and we're getting the CTE director staff to respond to that, et cetera. I just want to make sure we're all on the record asking AOE sort of not to come back next year and rehash that proposal, because they could not, in my mind, explain how you get to comprehensive regional high schools with CTE built in from a statewide system.
that's where we were having a hard time, because the discussion was a bridge, that we would build a bridge from where we are now to get to these regionally comprehensive integrated high schools. But as more we get into it, it sounded like a system that we're building that we'll never get out of.
Mm-hmm.
And how does it work with these regional integrated high schools? We were having a hard time understanding how that was going to be a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And so my committee was feeling the same way, that, this really isn't a path that we should be going down. We need to find a different way to bridge that gap. We really need to understand, with the 4 different governance systems that we have right now, how can we whittle those down to maybe 2 to get us through until we're able to start building these regional high schools. So yeah, we're on the same page.
Yeah, just what are we setting in motion?
Yeah.
I feel like they really have to know we're not going to keep spending time on this statewide proposal. It doesn't.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That sounds like a topic certainly for next biennium.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Because we are in a very limited timeline here. We want to get Beth up. Go through language.
So this is kind of a stick a pin in it. Sounds like you guys did some good quality work. Issues that needed to be discussed. I haven't had a chance to read it, so we're just gonna take that work and stick a pin in it somehow and pick it up next section.
Well, this bill so this is the House proposal amendment, which will probably call a straw poll on the floor.
Yeah.
We'll do a little recess, get all 6 together, make sure that the 2 that are missing understand the contents of the bill. But I would like to move forward with Beth's summary, so we all at least understand the language. Then we're gonna jump to Sophie, who's got the S230 section. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks. Appreciate it. Beth, you're up.
Hello, I'm St. James Office of Legislative Counsel. I have a side-by-side for you all. I'm having some tech issues, so I haven't been able to send it to Daphne, but as soon as I am able to send it to Daphne, I will send it to her for posting. But that may be the easiest document to use. How does that sound?
Sure. And Daphne, when you get this, you can send it to the printer so we can walk with it.
So on the left, you have S313 was passed by the Senate, and on the right, you have S313, the House proposal of amendment. I prepared this document with only the education related language and not S230. Mainly because I prepared it before that happened. So you can see very easy to visualize the changes between the Senate and the House on the first section, the findings section. So the House kept the initial sentence in the first finding, and then struck the rest of the language. Kept the general concept in the second finding, but reworded it. Same concept for the third finding. And kept the fourth finding as the Senate kept it. Section 2. The House also kept the Senate's intent section, but made some changes. You can see no changes to subdivision 1A and B. Changed subdivision C to read providing consistent in admissions policy, so kept the same language as the Senate, but then added while allowing for program specific requirements related to readiness, sequencing, and safety. House kept the third piece of intent, or the subdivision D piece of intent, related to ensuring that no student may be placed on a wait list or prevented from accessing CTE for lack of capacity, and then added language to state where there is a viable alternative program that aligns with the student's intended program of study. It meets program requirements, including sequencing and safety concerns, through the provision of transportation supported through a state level funding or coordination mechanism. And then the House kept subdivision 2, enabling flexible delivery models. Kept subdivision A, requiring delivery of programs at setting high schools or in a hybrid format where appropriate, but then added, provided that program quality, industry alignment, and access to necessary equipment and facilities are maintained. Kept subdivision B the same. It kept subdivisions 3, 4, 5, and 6 and 7 the same as passed by the Senate. This section 3 is the guidance. This is what Marcotte was talking about. Rather than having rules having the state board engage in rulemaking right now, would then potentially need to update those rules in a year or two based on the larger education transformation or further changes you make. This section requires the Agency of Education in collaboration with VACTED and the Superintendent's Association to issue guidance on the following topics, which should be reflective of our current CTE system in an effort to provide clarity to the field prior to the updates on CTE rules. So it calls for guidance on these definitions, credit standards and competency-based pathways, work-based learning sequencing aligned with OSHA standards and federal hazard orders, minimum safety space and equipment standards, data and reporting alignment with Perkins 5, and explicit allowance for differentiated regional delivery models. That's all guidance AOE should be issuing to the field in collaboration with VACTED and the Superintendent's Association. I'm just going to keep talking until someone tells me to stop. Okay, section 4. An amendment to section 1532 in Title 16, which is where the requirement for the state board to adopt rules for CTE lives. The only change here is adding to the statute that the state board is required to review the rules and procedures for CTE not less than every 5 years and update them as necessary. Section 5 is a giant report back to you all with recommendations on 4 general topics on or before January 15th of 27. So the first topic is CTE educator licensing. So in collaboration with the Standards Board, which is our teacher licensing body, recommendations regarding CTE educator endorsement requirements that balance the need for increased access to CTE educators with industry expertise and experience, with the need for ensuring that CTE educators are qualified to provide education in their specialty fields without unintentionally creating additional barriers or complexities. So how do you balance those? Recommendations need to include both necessary statutory changes as well as recommended changes to applicable state board rules around licensing. The first topic. Second topic is a pre-enforcement intervention pathway. What is a pre-enforcement intervention pathway? My understanding is when there's a conflict in the field over an interpretation of CTE rules or statute, the pre-enforcement intervention pathway would be kind of that mediator to mediate in the field before it got to any sort of state level issue. So what are some recommendations for a pre-enforcement intervention pathway that is responsible for supporting interpretation and implementation of CTE rules and statute, providing early stage mediation between CTE centers and sending districts? The green highlighting, I created this document for the House, and the green highlighting represents changes that the Education Committee made to the Commerce's work. So, but they all passed. So, providing early stage mediation between CTE centers and sending districts, documenting patterns of noncompliance or systemic barriers, and escalating unresolved or repeated issues for formal enforcement. So, a recommendation for a process that does all of that. Third bucket or third topic is update to the Flexible Pathways Initiative. Including recommendations for a statewide framework for career navigation, including grade level competency standards, related to career exploration and planning, evidence-informed educational resources, activities, and curricula that support opportunities for awareness and exploration of career and education pathways both in and out of the classroom. Recommendations for statewide professional development programming to help individuals within the public education system who have direct contact with students build role-specific knowledge and skills necessary to support students in developing their post-high school plans. Recommendations for a model career navigation policy that's integrated within pre-K through 12 system, and that establishes a framework for school districts to embed grade level competencies related to career exploration, and ensures students are engaged in meaningful career education, exploration, and planning activities that reinforce academic growth and real-world application of classroom learning.
Beth, who's charged with this study?
AOE. And utilizing a process for updating and developing personalized learning plans.
And did AOE have input on this? Do you know if they were in the room and said, hey, yeah, we can do this? Or no?
I can't speak to whether they said, yay, they can do this, but they certainly testified in both committees on this bill.
Great.
And then the fourth topic for this report is recommendations for ensuring that the adult diploma program participants have access to the educational programs that best serve their needs, including CTE education, while also complying with federal and state requirements for adult education, as well as recommendations for how to fund any such access. So that all of that is recommendations back to you all from AOE. Section 6, Rep. Marcotte talked about redefining comprehensive high school. So section 6 starts with a little bit of a preamble of here's what a comprehensive high school is now. I'll let that language speak for itself. And then there's intent language as Vermont works to transform its career technical education system. To increase access, quality, and opportunity of CTE programming available to Vermont students, the concept of a comprehensive high school should be expanded to achieve these goals. It is the intent of the General Assembly to move toward a model of comprehensive high schools that would offer all opportunities available to students within the public education system to be defined as a public or independent school other than a CTE center that fully integrates the provision of CTE with the provision of general education in one school building or on one school campus with a single budget for both. And then subsection B says, anyone who's coming and making recommendations to the General Assembly regarding how to achieve regional high schools, how to achieve more comprehensive high schools, or how to embed CTE within secondary schools themselves should be considering this definition that we just walked through. Or if you have a better idea, let's hear it.
2-minute warning.
Section 7 amends the statute in Title 16 that talks about CTE grades and credits transferring to your home-based school. Anywhere where grades is listed, this section updates it to include or proficiencies because of our proficiency-based grading system and learning system. The other big substantive change here is current law allows the school board of a high school from which the student wishes to graduate to make a determination as to whether the credits shall be applied that they earned in CTE or the graduation requirements. So there's discretion there. This change takes away that discretion and requires all school districts to apply credits or proficiencies earned in CTE toward graduation requirements. And then the House deleted, or the Education Committee deleted the Summer Study Committee, and that is what passed. So there's no study committee in this. And the bill would take effect on passage as passed by the House.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any quick questions? Good work.
That
So
So at the last minute, section 8A through E was added to this bill. It's all language that has previously passed both houses. The House most recently concurred with the Senate's proposal of amendment to the House's proposal of amendment to the Senate's original version of S230, which is an employment practices bill, essentially. Most of the sections, the first three, deal with substantive corrections, but to the existing Fair Employment Practices Act and the Parental and Family Leave Act. And then most importantly is the section on the healthcare providers. Section here, but I find it. And that was language again that was worked on actually originally in House Commerce and Economic Development around making it easier for healthcare providers to be able to move, open their own practices, remain in Vermont if they're a traveling nurse, etc. And there was an additional section that had been added on by the Senate that the House has concerns about, that S230 as currently drafted that's headed to the governor's office may precipitate a veto. And so the request has been to add the sections from 230 into this bill, but excluding the one section that the governor has indicated that he is not interested in. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I know you're under very tight timelines, but if there are any questions about the specific amendments, I'm happy to.
So what I propose is we'll stop 5 minutes to the floor. We'll caucus with the chair and Senator Sheen. Do essentially straw poll, see where we are. And then just pull it.
And Senator Williams, you'll speak for the committee on the changes.
Let's let the chair figure out.
Okay,
Because you and I may be more comfortable with the latter section.
that's what I was
It's more comfortable
wondering.
with-
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember who in our committee reported it previously.
I think it was Senator Chipton.
Okay, so I didn't really stand up.
The other thing I just
Yeah.
wanted to quickly mention was this did go to House Education, House Commerce and Economic Development, House General and Housing. They did adding this into this bill. And although Representative Marcotte wasn't there, his committee did vote 10-0-1 in support of
Oh, okay.
adding this in. And that
It did sound a little weird, like
yeah,
it
it
just wasn't there.
right. The rest of his committee
Yeah.
was there, and then all the folks that were available from general and housing also go
How about
towards,
education?
and education supported as well.
And this came through Senate chambers as well, right? Before.
2:30.
Yeah,
When it was two
And so
thirty,
we just kicked it into S13, yeah.
yeah, so S13 is the one that just went through those.
So I'm gonna recommend to our chair that we not report this until tomorrow, because I think we need a little bit of time for reporters to get their head around it, for all of us to get specific judge.
I'm trying, I mean, at this point, there's always a question about if there's something that could endanger it. If you don't report it until tomorrow, the rules have to be suspended. So
Did you see it? Did you see it?
it's not being amended.
If you're concurring,
If you're concurring,
there's nothing to message other than your act. The bill doesn't, the other chamber does not need to take
there's
action.
not 2 steps. Okay. So it does not endanger the bill to do it tomorrow. Everything should be put through that filter.